It's the Brad and John Show.
The Brad and John Show. This is the B Block, the Brad Block, whatever you want to call it. Today's date is January 13th. It's a Tuesday. So happy it's Tuesday, John. And you know,
we're going to be so happy it's Thursday in 2 days.
But you know what? I have a quandary this morning. I have 5 things to talk about, but I'm going to narrow it down to 4. So you know what that means, John? We're going to break the format.
It's time for Brad's Top 3.
No, it means this is what we're going to do. This is what we have to play right now.
It's a Brad Top 3 extra, 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 extra.
It's right. It's a Brad's Top 3 extra. One of 2 number 3 stories, okay? First off, John, I know you are still, if you get off the air, you're still watching Hakara Hedgeye's great videos that he puts out and his guide on the market. Have you heard this earnings call from General Motors? Have you heard this?
I haven't paid attention to the GM call. No, what's the headline?
They are going to have a write-down of $6.1 billion with a B dollars. And you know why that is, John?
What does it have to do with?
Electric vehicles. They've lost.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Are you saying are they going to scrap the electric business?
Well, they're sort of phasing it out. And matter of fact, they've laid off a bunch of people, one of the plants. And this is not unusual. The same thing's happening at Ford because of the fact that 2 things. First off, there are a lot of people that say that the early adopters have bought their electric vehicles, primarily the Tesla vehicles. But the second aspect of this is that the tax rebate, which I believe was like $7,500, expired at the end of September. So the sales, most of the people who were selling electric vehicles had a kick butt September, but then October the sales fell off the cliff. So they sort of did that. Okay, so that's my number 1. That's number 3A. Okay, you ready for 3B? Matter of fact, here.
Yeah, give it to us.
Here, I do this one. Okay.
It's number 3.
This is actually 3B. I last night watched a little mini documentary, about 30 minutes, put out by a guy in California, a little, I guess a citizen journalist, okay, chronicling the high-speed train in California. You know what I'm talking about, John?
I don't know the high-speed train out there. Wait a minute, is this the one that was super, super expensive to build?
Oh, well, here's the interesting part of it. Originally, the estimate was $10 billion. This was a train, and the qualifications were this was going to be the first bullet train in the United States, and it was going to go from San Francisco down to Los Angeles. And then at one point in time, they talked about making a spur going up to Sacramento and another spur going down to San Diego. Okay, the initial cost estimate was $10 billion. Okay, when it hit $100 billion, they had a serious look at it. And the interesting thing about this, the guy who first off killed the project was not Donald Trump. It was Joe Biden, because the thing was going nowhere. And one of the interesting problems was, and I talk about this all the time, this is the NIMBY thing. They had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lawsuits for both eminent domain and for environmental impact. And what they started doing was they started building the rail line in sections where they got a permission to, have the eminent domain. They got essentially property rights, and then there was no creeping horned toad frogs there that they were going to kill with the construction project. And they built it in sections. So there are sections of the high-speed rail that are done, and the most of it is not, and the project is now dead. And the federal government, I believe, has already put in like $10 billion into this, and California put into this. See, this is another thing where America cannot build bullet trains. And you know what we can't build anymore, which is maybe we'll talk about in C Block. You know what else we can't build anymore?
Is it some sort of plane?
No, ships.
Oh, wow, okay.
We can't build ships anymore. I mean, it's to the point where it's that we can, but there's nobody doing it anymore. There's an interesting thing that's going on in the skilled trade area. And I read this story a couple months ago, which I thought was interesting. Now there's nuclear power that's coming back into vogue, okay? The problem is there's nobody that knows how to do it anymore, because since we haven't built a nuclear power plant in, 30, 40 years? All those people that worked on those nuclear power plants, the engineers, the designers, the electricians, the skilled labor, the mechanical guys, they're all retired or they're dead. And there's no new generation of kids coming up who have nuclear power plant experience and how to build it. What the hell's going on with this country? The same thing with shipbuilding. There's no new generation of young guys building ships anymore. Remember we talked about this? Was it the B-24 during World War II? Remember we talked about the fact that they produced one an hour? One an hour? Go up to Boeing right now. An F-15 takes what, 2-3 months to make? An F-18 takes 4 months or something like that? See, this is my problem with what's going on in America. To me, it's sad. Okay, ready for
Bart Inman right now, his nose is itching, and he has no idea why. And also, I think the only thing we have fewer than people that are well trained in nuclear studies are guys on the radio that can pronounce nuclear. I think we have few of those. Brad, what I don't understand about, and I remember about a year ago, you brought up the story about the high-speed train and how it wasn't going to be finished. At what point do you hold contractors accountable, like the design and build firm or whoever, the engineering company, and say, who thought it was a good idea to start building this in sections before it's connected?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't them. The contractors are going to take the money. They're going to, if they get a contract, legally, if they build the contract and they get the bid, they got to build it. But that was the choice of the state, the choice of the government, because they didn't want to look like they were stupid and were not doing their job and stuff like that. This was like this. And the crazy thing about it is, let's be honest. Okay, remember? We had the same talk about, if you remember going back in history, when Metrolink comes into St. Louis, it's going to change everything. John, it did change. It changed the Galleria. You know what I'm saying?
It did, yeah. It destroyed the Galleria. And thankfully, if you board the Soul Train now, you can deal with panhandlers. You can see people hopping, well, at least in the old days, hopping the turnstiles. And you can feel, now I know we don't need to get down the Metrolink train, pardon the expression, but you're a big Metrolink guy. The last time I rode it, I had a gentleman say, let me get that 50 cent, let me get that change. And that was probably 10 years ago, and I haven't been on it since.
John, there are no, at least there didn't used to be, there were no turnstiles at the Metrolink stations. That was part of the problem. You could just walk on and nobody...
Oh, yeah, that's right. You just walk in, right?
Walk on. Nobody said anything to you. Okay, ready for number 2?
Yeah, number 2.
It's time for Brad's number 2.
A story in the St. Louis Business Journal talking about our friend David Hoffmann. And you know what they're talking about, David Hoffmann?
Are they talking about the Penguins or are they talking about the Post-Dispatch?
They're talking about the Post-Dispatch. They're essentially saying, what magic bullet does Mr. Hoffmann have to turn things around? Because apparently the numbers for the Post, both subscriptions, both old-timey newspapers and new digital subscriptions, keep going down and down and down. Now, I saw this posted on Facebook, and the St. Louis I've got the hiccups now. The St. Louis Business Journal article was posted on Facebook, and the comments section was very interesting because 90% of the comments, maybe even 95% of the comments, you know what they were, John?
Were they people that once used to shop at the Hildebrand nursery who were mad at the Hoffmans?
No, they're people essentially saying, if you stop writing left-wing commie news, we'd buy the paper again. Which I thought,
yeah, if you stop being the Compost Dispatch or the Red Rag, whatever you want to call it.
No, the Blue Rag, isn't it? The Blue Rag? No,
it might be something like that.
Okay.
Now, Brad, let me ask you a question. Do you think that's actually true? If they suddenly became centrist, middle of the road, would people say, hey, I want some old guy in a rickety van to throw a newspaper into my hedges, and I bring it in when it's wet and I have to let it dry for an hour before I read it?
John,
do you think people still want to read a newspaper?
I think I don't necessarily know about the actual physical paper anymore, but if they can't even sell the digital subscriptions, I mean, and what's interesting was there were a lot of comments in there about how the digital subscription is messed up. People talked about how you had to sign in all the time and you got kicked offline. And
I've heard that too. Sorry to interrupt, but I hear from people who amazingly choose to pay for it that every time you open a new browser, like the folks who subscribe are constantly having technical issues, and the Post-Dispatch has never seemed to correct this.
Right. And to me, it's like, for example, I buy things on Amazon, and I do try to buy locally. Matter of fact, I just got something yesterday for a part for one of my lawnmowers, and I could not find it anywhere locally. Just was not available, so I ordered it online. Okay. If you go from like Amazon and you go over to the Walmart website or even the Best Buy website, it's like noticeably much easier to navigate the Amazon website. I mean, to the point where it's almost surprisingly easy to find a product, to buy it. You know, you can buy it now or you put it in a shopping cart and check out. It's super easy, okay? But yet, if you try to do that on a Walmart site, on the Best Buy site, It doesn't work that well. Okay? My point being is, if they produce a product that is centrist, more or less down the middle, not the left wing, bias that they have in all the editorials, and they clean up the website to the point where if you're buying the subscription, it works properly, people will buy it. It's like anything. It's like this thing with Barry Weiss, whatever you want to call it. She started the free press. She got the thing honed and to the point where it worked very well. People appreciated the content. They bought the stupid thing. You know what I'm saying? People will pay for things that they deem valuable. And at this point in time, I think a lot of people, at least according to my unofficial, it's anecdotal at best, the comments on the Post-Dispatch. Matter of fact, one of them was my old friend Jack Klobnock. He was the first comment on there, and everybody said the same thing. It's the website's screwed up. The price keeps going up. It's nothing but left wing, super progressive
propaganda.
Yeah, propaganda stuff like that.
Which is which is probably unfair because I think then there's a great piece today. I'm not sure if you saw it, but it's about Elliot Davis. And it was put together by Austin Hugelet. Brad, if you want to support the Post-Dispatch, you can go to johncombest.com today, and you can choose to click on a link that helps you evade the paywall. And I'll point out, as you talk about great journalism, I should point out yesterday, and I got permission to read this on the air, express permission. When we discussed Jason Rosenbaum, folks can hear that in C block of yesterday's show, which was January 12th, 2026. I texted Jason made a reference about one of his videos. And Jason said, please tell Brad I edited it, his most recent Instagram video. Please tell Brad I edited it together on a weekend. And as a callback, you pointed out that you don't think that people at St. Louis Public Radio work on a weekend, but Jason Rosenbaum worked on a weekend.
John, once again, people may be familiar with the 80-20 rule. This is now the 99-1 rule. 99% of the decent stuff on stlouispublicradio.org, stlpr.org, is done by Jason Rosenbaum. The rest of the 33 staff produce 1% of the content. Jason produces 99% of the content that's good. And the only problem was he may work on the weekend, but once again, if you polled all the staff members of STLPR and you say, hey, what did you do this weekend? We went to the Grove and we did this. And well, did you go out in St. Charles County? Oh, my God, we'd never crossed that bridge.
No, of course not. Brad, for the record, I've scrolled through their page. There's not a single person in that newsroom that I want to poll.
I'm not going to touch that one. So, you know what? I understand where you're coming from. But see, Jason's mad at me, and he's coming after me, so I know the whole story.
They're always coming after you, Brad. You know what's coming after me? Brad's Big Finish.
That's right.
And now, Big Finish, Brad's number.
I had this on my list yesterday. Honestly, I screwed up and I didn't do it. And the reason I should have done it yesterday was yesterday, January 12th, in the year 2007. John, I don't know if you remember this story. This became not only a local story, but a national story, an international news story right here in the STL. January 12th, 2007. Do you have any idea what happened on that date?
Was it the day that we discovered the kidnapped kid?
Yes, exactly.
Are you serious?
Boy, you guessed that one right. January 12th.
Devlin, the Michael Devlin case.
2007, Ben Owenby, who was the most recent kidnapped boy, they got a lead that Ben Owenby would be at this dude's apartment. I believe it was in Kirkwood, wasn't it? In Kirkwood?
It was Kirkwood, yeah, because didn't the dude work at the Emos there?
Yes, he was a manager at when the Emos Pizza Place. So when they executed the search warrant, they found Ben Owenby and Sean Hornbeck, who had been missing for a year or some crazy thing like that?
Yeah, a long time.
And to the point I still will never forget. I'm driving. I can tell you exactly where I was. I was on 94, driving in St. Charles County. I was right by the Quick Trip right there at O'Fallon Road. People know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm driving up there, and I'm listening to 97.1, and they had a news bulletin. And I thought to myself, hold on a minute. This can't be for real. They found the one kid who had been kidnapped. I think it was a couple weeks ago. Wasn't it like 2 or 3 weeks before they found it? It was It was a relatively short period of time. And they found Sean Hornbeck, who unfortunately most people had given up for dead. And this guy had kidnapped them both. And I'm going unbelievable story. And this was like the number one story on St. Louis News for like 2 or 3 days, to the point where there's more information coming out, and then they talked to the police, and they talked to how they got the leads and how they developed all this stuff, and the police, how they worked, and they got this lead, and this person talked about these kids that live there, and blah, 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 blah. This turned into a national story and an international news story because, unfortunately, I hate to say this because I'm the father of 4 children. They're all grown now, but most of these stories don't turn out like this. Most of these stories turn out to be very tragic. The kids are found dead, unfortunately, or they're or B, never found at all, and they just disappear. It's they're just like gone forever.
Now, did we find out, and refresh my memory here, I don't mean to be obtuse, but was this Devlin guy gay? Like, did he take boys because he liked boys?
I don't.
Or was he just like a murderer?
I don't remember the story behind that. I don't remember the whole deal behind that. But it was to me, this was one of the most shocking news stories I can remember, and especially being a local. To me, if this had happened in pick a city, Poughkeepsie, New York, Carlsbad, California, to me it would have been holy cow. But it happened right here. And the bizarre part of this is, if you went and ate pizza at Emo's in Kirkwood, the guy who perpetrated that was running the place. And if you were a regular customer of that, you'd see it. Hey, hi, hey, what's going on? Hey, great pizza, that kind of stuff. How in the world does that happen? And the other part
I
of it
don't
was,
know. I mean, they're not always. Sometimes they live among us.
And
I'm sure that the guys that were the young men that were found, thankfully alive, I'm sure they've gone on and they probably want to live in anonymity now. And then I'm sure Devlin did he get life in jail, I'm sure?
Oh, if he didn't, he should have. I mean, he should.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that. And were the boys old enough? I don't remember. Were the boys old enough to know that they could try to escape, or was there something that kept them from trying to escape?
I'll have to dig into more of that. And that's an interesting question, because that was a question everybody say, okay, why didn't they just run away?
Why didn't they run away?
Right. I don't know. I mean, the whole thing's just bizarre.
And I'm not, by the way, I'm not blaming the victim here. And if you're a kid, you're probably super impressionable. But at a certain age, you think that they would at least try to escape their confines.
But, people made fun of the police departments, and I worked for one, and we had 2 investigators in the department I worked for. One, not so good. The other one, really good. And you just don't understand the time and effort these guys put into cases like this, because these types of cases get personal for them, especially with kids, because most of these detectives, they had kids of their own, and they're like, okay, this could have been my kid. We're going to solve this crime. And this is one of those things. They never let it go. I will tell the story. A guy I used to work for, who was, matter of fact, when I did the Sunday Night Talk Show, his air name was Lee Ford, and his real name was Lee Langford. And he, at the time when I was working with him at the old KSLQ, he was detective sergeant for the Richmond Heights Police Department. He had a case. I went to his office one time, and he still had all these things up in his office, a cold case that was like 12 years old that he was still working on. And it was a bizarre, weird, strange murder where a woman was murdered and her body was put into a 55-gallon drum. And, he still had the pictures of the drum on the wall and stuff like that. And I even said to him, I said, man, that's an old case. He says, I'm still working it. He never gave up on that case. And I don't think it was ever solved. Just like the crazy thing, and I think that was one of his cases as well, too. Remember, if they had the synagogue shooter there, I think it was Richmond Heights, either out in Clayton, right there off of 170. You know what I'm talking about, the synagogue shooter?
I don't remember that, no.
Oh, a long time ago. Sniper shot Jewish people at a synagogue, coming out of a synagogue on a Saturday morning. I mean, another weird, bizarre, stupid, crazy story. It's like, who does this kind of weird stuff, Anyway.
Yeah, well, they live among us, Brad.
Man, that they do. And they could be the guy making your pizza, right? Okay.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, hopefully not.